Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Anybody have any questions? If not, maybe hear from the mayor?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, it was a successful helicopter egg drop. It was pretty muddy out there. Despite 20-mile-an-hour winds the night before, I thought it would dry things off, but it was very successful. And in addition, the helicopter then landed, and the young students were able to take pictures inside the cockpit, which was pretty neat. Ohio Cat was before the Planning Commission on a $4.5 million expansion, which was approved. They're getting a 49% CRA and a .49 school board tip, which has been approved by council, and the school has been notified. There's no need for them to have to pass that. Sophie, which develops, manufactures, and dispenses PET scan injectables for the Alzheimer and cancer community in the United States. They're having a $3.5 million expansion, of which $1.5 million is personal property. The balance is inventory, like the cyclotron, which alone is over a couple $1 million. I will have that before you in the next council meeting, asking for 90% CRA. There's not much job increase, but it underscores our brand of being the hub of, in Northeast Ohio and Ohio in general, of high tech and medical research operations in Ohio. And I don't see the school having any problem with this either. That'll be before you at the next council meeting. Let's see, additionally, at the next meeting, I'll be going over a company here that will be wanting to hire 50 ambulance drivers. I'll get into more detail at the next meeting. You have before you the 2023 County Road Preventive Maintenance Program of $109,000. We usually get about 75 or 80,000, so this is good. Notice they're all county roads. Additionally, and this was signed by Cuyahoga County Executive Director Chris Renee. Additionally, what was just handed out to you, well, even before that, Ed and I were downtown at the Department of Development last Wednesday for a second reading on a $250,000 ARPA money for Oakwood. We've already received a check for $250,000 for Fair Oaks ARPA money. When we were going home, however, Ed was driving, and on Cedar and 30th, a lady was making a right-hand turn at a red light window, the wheel well of the passenger side where I'm at. The car was disabled. She gets out. Ed asks her for insurance. She says she didn't have any. She gets back in the car and takes off. We had the Oakwood Ricks towing, as well as a detective car picking us up to get us back here. Finally, when we were leaving, at least about 30 minutes later, you had a Cleveland officer finally appear. Anyway, that was an interesting situation. It was nice getting that ARPA money. Let's see where we're at here. I have a meeting in the next 10 days with the county, the executive director of the county, Chris Renee, which will be a very important meeting, along with Jerry Serino, which is the Senate representative in Ohio for District 18. So this should be a very powerful meeting, and I hope to have some good results from it at the next meeting. Let's see what else we have here. On the matter of what I also handed out from Chagrin Valley Engineering, the Cleveland Water Department is finalizing the lead service line replacement program and replacing it now with copper. What they're to be able to do this, the data sets need that are required of the permanent condition rating PCR for all roads in the village, which I brought to your attention, remember, last fall. where all our roads have to be approved for ODOT specs. They're now insisting on that for us to get the money for them able to make this change. So this legislation will be before you at the next meeting as well.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize, when you say make this change, what was the change? I'm sorry. What is the change?
Our Cleveland Water is going to, what they're going to do is, it's called a lead surface line replacement. And they're gonna replace it with copper tubing. And,
Throughout the village?
yeah, well, there might only be, there's
Where
only
it is.
holes that have to be put in where you're having this fitting to be putting in.
Okay,
So it's not like all the roads are being ripped up. The point, however, is for them to be able to do this, we have to have had our roads, reviewed to see which ones are in what kind of shape. So remember, I had asked that last fall. There was some hesitancy on some members of council, others wanted to have it done. So it's easier anyway to be evaluating when we need road work to be done, other than the county roads.
that was a cost to fix the, what, am I correct?
It was like about I think it was 8,000 or something, $5,000 to $8,000. But it's necessary to be, let's make sure we're getting rid of this lead, the lead lining with copper tubing. And lastly, it was interesting, Live Nation along with 1490 AM wanted to work taking two of our concerts, the Mike Albert's Memories of Elvis show and the Bobby Wilson, son of Jackie Wilson show to the MGM for their concert, like we used to have over their big concert hall. The problem is, the night after Mike is performing here, Three Dog Night is there. And on the night that Mike is here, they're having a big, a national psychic coming in. So we weren't wanting to change our concert dates, so that isn't gonna happen. They will remain here at the shopping center, unless it rains, which would then be in the Mount Zion Severance.
Fine arts.
No, and the Severance, in their chamber for services, not the Dream Center. Additionally, and after dealing with the Pet Shop Boys, they're asking too much money, so I'm looking at either Hotel California, which is a tribute band to the Eagles, or Dance and Dreams, which is a tribute band to ABBA. So that'll be the last show. And other than that, just Mr. Bergarsic has apparently moved his chickens. Although we're from Missouri, the Show Me State, we aren't, we're not taking any chances. We're leaving the court date of May open in case they come back. But they should have been out there the last 2 or 3 days, and they aren't out there. So apparently they are gone. That's what his attorney is saying. But again, show me. So we'll see where we're at. But that's a great sign.
Did this attorney send you a letter saying that, or did he give you a verbal
To
statement?
Ross Cirencione, our consul advisor.
Mhm. We need it in writing, I would suggest. Wouldn't you, law director?
Yeah.
For his attorney to put it in writing that the chickens are gone, or hens are gone, or whatever they are.
They have to at least be gone right now because they should have been outside the last 2 days.
I understand, Mayor, but nothing is more definitive when you have it in writing. What's the problem in getting his attorney that told you that?
Yeah.
Now get his attorney to put it in writing.
Yeah.
I talked to Ross about the communication, and I'm not sure if he said it was verbal or in writing, but I'll ask.
Let's get it in writing. We'd like to see it in writing.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Also, just so you're aware, we escorted the health department down here a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
So I imagine you're gonna wanna follow up too, to make sure this is.
Right, this is council.
Yeah, the EPA was down there as well.
Okay.
That concludes my report.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Can I get from the mayor what portion of that study we want to comply so we don't lose out on this, project, these funds?
Every road will be, analyzed.
I got that part, but how much? Just let us know how much.
Again, I'll have, it's between, I think, 5,000 and 8,000, wasn't it, Mr. Chairman, I think.
It was before, yeah.
Yeah.
How much, though? Remind me, thank you.
Could you find out and confirm it and then send us an email out confirming it? Okay.
Excuse me.
You wanna move on? Where we at? Yes.
What was the May date? I know you said May, but do you know exactly what the date, cause I knew today was his trial date, Mr. Bogarsik. But what was the May date, so I don't have that. May
Yeah, I don't
date.
know, because he had his attorney left him and there's a new attorney.
Yes, Mr.
And
Parsons.
Ross just wanted to be sure there wouldn't be any mess up, so he still had on a calendar date in May, one of the first 2 weeks of May, a date if this had to go before a jury trial.
Okay, cause I knew it was today, okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Law
Yes.
Director, do you have any, parameters on how we define reasonable in a public records request?
No, I mean, that's sort of a case by case
Mhm.
basis.
Is it just based off of what the request is and how much time it may take? Like, how do we put parameters around that?
There are a lot of factors. I mean, how many records there are, whether the person is asking that those records be altered or organized, or if they're already beyond the way they're kept. There's just a number of factors that go into it.
Are there any other factors that you can think of right now that could go into that?
You know, volume of the records, the time frame they're looking at, the clarity of the request, whether you can tell what it is the person's asking for.
Mhm.
I mean, there are a number of factors, and I can't recite every one of them right here. And there is no set list.
That's what I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
next. There's nothing in the ORC that gives you a list of that, okay?
No.
The package, so we just kinda make them up as we get a request?
That's not true, okay? The courts have passed on a number of things that they consider reasonable and not reasonable. Is it every scenario that could possibly arise? No, but there are some guidelines.
So there are guidelines in Ohio revised code about what's considered.
Not in the code, in court decisions.
Oh, got it, okay. I sent a request, so we had a meeting on March 29th, and I had requested, salaries be separated from all other expenses, so have them in 2 columns. But I also requested year-end salaries for basically, and I know we've been changing the names of them, interim assistant fire chief, interim fire chief, acting fire chief, a lot of different roles. So I sent that on March 31st. And Brian said he was short-staffed, he just got back to me yesterday about being able to get that to me in 2 weeks, so I wanted to make sure, how we were doing this. Like, is it because he's short-staffed and he can take 2 weeks or 4 weeks, is that a factor as well? Okay,
Maybe he should give you a projection of when he can feel like he can have them done, because he is short-staffed and we do have to hire people and train them.
I just said he said 2 weeks. Do we know when we're gonna fill those positions?
He's interviewing a few people coming up on his, and Ralph will be coming back part-time
Do we know when Ralph is coming back?
within the next couple weeks. He additionally had to be doing, apparently on your trip, taking care of that, taking care of the airplane and hotel and that kind of stuff, so that took time too. But anyway, I would expect this to be done for you before the next council meeting for sure.
Any other questions? If not, I'll open up the floor for public comment, and this is the opportunity for the residents to come and explain or offer any advice or tell us or offer us anything that they have a concern about or outrage about. So you please come up there, give your name and address to the clerk for the record.
Pat Malone, 22796 Drake Road, Oakwood Village.
I'm sorry, what was the street
Oh.
again? I'm sorry.
Pat Malone,
I got your name. What was the street?
22796 Drake.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm up here again for my monthly check on Fair Oaks. And,
And the road work will begin before the middle of June.
oh, it was May, now it's June.
Well, there was a slight delay, and that was, Kroger not, admitting to want to begin their road work into their site until the end of the year. So there's a problem with respect to the realignment of that intersection between Fair Oaks and Alexander to where it quite can be. So in the meantime, this road will be about 4/5 completed from Broadway to Oakleaf, or to Alexander, and the rest will just be a simple resurfacing job until the entry to that site is established. But the road work will begin before the middle of June, by the middle of June.
So this year, right now, this is all dependent on what Kroger's doing. Well, that's what you're making
No,
me
I'm
think
saying the
it is.
realignment of that intersection, not the road itself. About 85% of it is going to be done perfectly, and the last 15% is gonna be a simple
And when is it
resurfacing.
going to be done? Half budded.
It'll be it'll be very satisfactory when it's in its 6-week or 9-week job, when it begins in the middle of June.
So we're saying a completion around August,
Yeah,
in the beginning, first or
Middle of
second week
June.
of June.
middle of June,
Middle of June.
yeah. Again, the only thing that will not be perfectly done will be the realignment itself, and that'll be an asphalt resurfacing until we know exactly the site entrance to the Alexander project.
Mayor, I have heard this for the last, I don't know how many years, that we're going to do something with Fair Oaks. I don't know whether I can believe you or not. I
Wait
mean,
until the middle of June.
like I said, you have given me a multiple things that we were going to do for Fair Oaks.
Yeah.
We were going to put up some kind of noise barrier, and then you said, no, we can't do that because it's too late. ODOT can't do this. We were gonna put trees
You
up.
couldn't have a noise barrier where Drake is because it's perpendicular to
Yes,
the street.
that wasn't the first thing you told me years ago, but now it's that. Again.
It all has to do with Kroger, as I said.
Again, here we go, it's all
But
dependent
no,
on Kroger.
well, no, it's not dependent. The road is gonna get 85% done despite Kroger. The only reason for Kroger is because of their darn issue with with the $25 billion merger with Albertsons, and antitrust regulators, unions screaming, and even now the White House is concerned about this in terms of grocery prices, and so this thing is a coin flip whether it even is gonna happen or not, but that's been tying Kroger up. In the meantime, we're moving forward, as I say, with this project.
Okay, the statement you just made,
Yeah,
we don't know if it's going to happen. Are you talking?
that's the Albertsons Kroger
Oh,
thing.
but that doesn't have anything to do with Kroger here in Oakwood.
No. That has been the reason for this delay.
And last year, everything was gung-ho, and Albertson had nothing to do with it.
Because
and we still
this
didn't.
wasn't happening then. They were committed to be moving forward.
What I'm
They wanted to be on a fast track, but then the issue was they wanted them to buy out Albertsons, and that has created the issue. It's a $25 billion, and again, you're having people that don't know anything about marketing at all is thinking that this is gonna create, because of less grocery stores, a increase in grocery prices. Hardly. The reason for grocery prices is very simple. One, you've had a drought in Texas, you've had too much rain in California and Florida that are affecting the crops. Fertilizer prices are way over the hill because of diesel, as well as just the trucking of the groceries. Those prices are not going down, and grocery prices are not going down.
Okay, so, again,
Yet you have antitrust regulators screaming about this. And which, by the way, it's also interesting that the CEO of Albertsons, which has left, obviously Albertsons, he's been now hired by another grocery chain as being their CEO, and they're wanting to buy many of these duplicate grocery stores that would have been eliminated by Kroger Albertsons merger to begin with. So you're not even gonna have a loss of any grocery stores. But again, you're dealing with people that are never been in business in their life, all they've been are career politicians.
Well, the thing is that there's a huge concern about these mergers of the grocery stores being an antitrust situation where they can't fix prices when you got three major grocery stores controlling the food market.
I understand that, but
They
what
only
you
have
need,
15.5% of the entire market, that's hardly controlling the
Yeah,
market.
but if you add Walmarts and the other ones to it, then you have three.
I'm
or four
talking,
different-
well, wait a minute, yeah, but you're talking in terms of the Kroger, Albertsons merger is actually 16.5%. Walmart has 22% of the market, then you have the Costco's and the Amazons a little under 10%.
Costco.
So I would
Excuse
hardly,
me,
I would
I
hardly.
was
It's her
speaking.
floor. Go ahead.
thank you. What I started to say was, when this all started with Fair Oaks, it was way before we had anything going on over there with Kroger. And you have promised me, you know, yeah, we're gonna get it done, we're gonna do this, yeah, we're gonna do that. Thank God for Tommy's crew trying to make it halfway decent. If it wasn't for them, I don't know what the people would be doing. That's all I'm saying. And this thing with Kroger, so be it. I don't believe it's gonna get done. If it gets done in my lifetime, I will be amazed. Really. Now I have a couple questions for, Chief Garrett.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that we've got the 2 men retiring.
Correct.
Do we have replacements or have we?
No, we can't fill the position full-time until we have the vacancy.
Oh,
So now that it's been announced, now we're gonna start that. Literally, the date is today that I was informed.
okay.
So, we're looking at lateral transfers and open hiring, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so in other words, we're 2 down. Don't let
2 down.
anybody know that. And for
We got 16 part-time.
fire chief,
That is-
No.
what is is everything over at, Schumann?
Oh, I'm sorry, we have one.
Our part of it's all done, EPA and them are still monitoring there, but we are not gonna release any reports of anything that they've found hazardous, but as far as our side of it's done, it's human. As far as what they're gonna do is up to them and whether they're gonna rebuild.
Okay, but as far as the village and the air, because I hate to say this, but I don't have much faith in the EPA. After ag metal and all the stuff that they have polluted the air with, and you call them, yeah, okay, well, what time was it, and how strong was it, and which way was the wind blowing? You know, I just don't have much faith in them.
All the reports we've gotten back, nothing hazardous has
Okay.
come back from it.
All right,
And even when the news media contacted us about it, our hands are strapped to just a report that we offered on the internet as far as where we were, and just like the chief said, the EPA and other agencies were at that time controlling that site, so we have nothing to do, have to wait for the final results.
yeah, so we're done as far as
Our end, it's hard.
our end.
Soon as the fire was out.
Okay.
Dave, you mentioned the other 3 agencies that were involved in the investigation, so it wasn't just the EPA.
The FBI was,
Yeah, ATF was also.
ATF.
You had Envirotech,
right.
All right, because like I said, it seems like when the wind blows, it's coming over Drake Road.
Yeah, and that's not coming from shooting.
Oh. No, that's coming from AgNet. All right, well, thank you very much for your time. You're up.
Oh, I'm not bad now.
Oh, Stephanie, oh, will you read that?
I just dropped papers on. How y'all doing? Ben Sizemore, 25091 Garden Road. And thank you for you fellas coming and getting me out of my house the other day. I got a few things. I heard on the news that, the lead around this area is really bad. Ward 4, they added on the news that, it was advertised real bad after that shindig we had over there. Ag metals don't help none either, you know. And, also, I'd like to ask you all, are there any plans to get in the low, budget, rates on for people to get their driveways done, work done on their house or anything like that? We got anything going on like that?
there were 2 things. One, regarding AgMet, they're spending $9 million on, making their operation more safe and clean. $9 million.
Well,
And this is an agment, it's been bought out by Glencoe.
I know you're doing the best you can do with these
Yeah.
people. But the damn thing is about it, our politicians has dropped the ball on these people left and right.
Yeah,
And who's suffering is the children.
Yeah.
We're leaving these kids a mess. And everybody turns their head. You go down these hospitals and see them plumb full of new diseases they got coming up left and right. And that's not fair for them. That's not fair at all. We should be ashamed of being adults handing these kids a bag of shit, exactly what we're handing them. You know, I mean, you take a look at it. I mean, you think it's funny and shit like that. You go around and see these kids, they've got cough shit, can't even get figured out. And you go to a doctor, oh, I don't see him. You know, come on, we're adults here. It's our turn at the bat. Everybody else will do. These guys here are doing their damn homework. That guy does his homework, but the rest of us is sitting around going, you know, playing craps. I'm blaming somebody else for it.
that's where, you weren't here at the last meeting, where we're working on with no taxpayers' expense an advanced learning center, which would include Ayusia being involved in actually not just giving seminars like we do at our summer camp, but actually have a class that's credited in exploring the careers in health and medicine. There's such a dearth of pink care givers as well as doctors. It's terrible. And the few that you have, then half of them are concerned about what they might say, that they could lose their job because of government involvement. So there's a lot involved, but anyways, by educating the best thing we can do are educate our youngsters to understand the careers that are gonna be in demand in the next 3 to 5 years, so they're not having to be worrying about the government.
What we need to do is be adults, grow up, and start taking care of our own. Start taking care of our own backyard. It's what we need to do. Instead of passing the buck off to somebody else, we call the village and they call down there and say, well, we got a complaint against you doing atomic metals. And that's terrible to get out there and smells like electrical fire all the damn time. I got grandkids. I got a gang of them. I love every damn one of them. And I love every kid on my street. I got little kids on wheelchairs and everything else. And they all know me. They know him, they know me and John. We walk around the streets. And that ain't right, Gary. I mean, we can turn around and have all the concerts we want. We can turn around and sell give a guy a piece of land for, give him $1 million for it and build up some kind of grocery chain that you don't know if they're gonna be here today or tomorrow. And they've done already screwed half of the people in Solon over years ago back, and all these other. All we doing as citizens here are asking you people to get a set of testicles and grow up and start doing your job.
Well, as I say, this matter with Glencore and with AgMed putting in $9 million, that is going to be. I think there's been only 2 complaints since Christmas of their operation over there, which is far different than it used to be. But that's even before they're putting in the $9 million. So this should make a big difference, and hopefully, as I said, there certainly hasn't been a smokestack industry coming in since I've been mayor, because I wouldn't have allowed it.
Well, I understand that, but the damn thing is about it, they got kicked out of Pennsylvania. And I think it was Bethlehem, I think it was where it is kicked out. But I can find out, I can dig in on it like digging a groundhog out of a hole, brother. I mean, I'm not ashamed. Not one bit. Because I don't mind going to Washington. I've been up there, me and them guys has gotten into it. Before this guy was governor, he threw me out of his office when he was a congressman. You know, asked me to leave because we had a disagreement over the NAFTA bill. And I was right. I mean, we screwed every generation there was. And it was all on our watch. And we're still doing it. Look what they did to these people over here in southeastern Ohio.
You're in Palestine.
Yeah.
That isn't over with.
No,
By
it
the way,
ain't
it's
over with.
interesting, you're
This
talking about
thing over here ain't over with.
well, here, in Palestine, they're only now finally looking at dioxin toxicity, not the vinyl chloride, which was what was underscored. Dioxin's lifetime are 100 years. Once they're in the soil or in the water, it's 100 years before they dissipate. I would guess in the next 3 to 5 years, that area is gonna be inhabitable.
We understand what you're saying.
All the thing I'm asking you all to do is do your job.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
But we were.
I'm be fair.
Mhm.
I'm be fair, that's all. I'm not up here to give one-sided ass kicking contests, not at all. You know, I got neighbors down the street that like to get a nice driveway, but they can't get a decent loan where they're on, all of them are retired and on a set income. They like to get their house fixed up, stuff like that.
I had sent out, and it was in some of my former newsletters, and there's another one that come out, and I'll give you the programs, and I've explained these programs, and I've dealt with them, and as a matter of fact, we're gonna have a representative from one of the agencies that can provide you with a summary of the programs that they have available. We had tried it last year, but due to some people in that agency having a concern about COVID and public
Sure.
hearing, you know, so now they're more comfortable with it, and they will, and I had that name CHS in my newsletters before, and I mentioned them to you guys already too. And so they do have programs for low to moderate income people, and they have driveways, they do exterior home repairs, or, you know, provide funding for exterior home repairs. And when we get them to do their presentation, it'll be a village-wide notification, and everyone could come and invited to listen to their presentation. For low-interest loans.
You know, listen, I don't wanna sound like a daggone nag up here,
You know,
when I see you people up here, but I care.
and
You can ask any of my neighbors, all they gotta do is look at me and I'll go up there and help.
Right.
And every one of us jump in and help each other.
And we do our due diligence, you know, as a matter of fact, I was up there at the site, at the Ice Schulman site, and as a result, you saw that, what's his name? The newspaper guy, he contacted me to discuss the thing, it was in the paper, it was actually on the news too. But I was up there, and again, it was the same thing. I was told that I couldn't go past that line in that building.
Right.
Because of the ecological problems that they have. You know, they haven't mitigated the dangers yet. They're still having to haul out areas of the building, and all of the time that they're just taking out soils and taking out things, they have to identify their transportation routes because of the fact that they wanted to be determined that whether these are chemicals or they're environmental hazards that they're shipping in and out. So this is it's an ongoing process, but just to let you know, it's totally out of our hands as far as Oakwood being able to, our fire chief can't even go there, and they were the ones that extinguished the fire. But one of the things that when they called me looking for a story because someone had mentioned something about lead, and then I hooked them up and got the report from the fire chief and let him realize it, and it ended up being a 180 as far as looking for something negative, and ended up finding that we had gave accolades to our surrounding departments, 13 departments. Here we are, part-time departments, and coordinated 13 departments, and had that hazard actually contained in 2.5 hours.
Right.
And so I gave credit.
I believe
Right.
these guys
And he
did
can
a
tell you,
great job.
and I sold it, and I told the media, Bernier, or whatever his name is, Andre Bernier. And so, like I said, going forward, when we can do anything legally to be able to do any investigation or to make any assessment, we will, but right now, this is totally in control of the EPA. And we have no authority to walk on that site.
Mr. President?
Well,
Yes. Well, let
I
him
would
finish.
get me a hold of, I'd get me a hold of Sheriff, or, he's always been over there. Every time I was always over there.
I sent him an email and explained the situation to him, but he said that's EPA. And the thing is that right now, not many public officials want to override, well, they can override it, basically. You know, you can't override the EPA because they're saying that they're protecting the community from the hazards that may emit from that catastrophe. So to let you know, we are, and I am, and we are aggressively in pursuing that to see when it, because our concern is that when is the rebuilding gonna be able to begin? That's another concern. So the thing is that we are looking at that, and to answer your question, like I said, before this letter come out, I'll call you and give you the information for the agency, and you can call them direct and tell them that I asked you to call. I deal with them all the time, from time to time, you know, but like I said, everything was ratcheted back, and now they're just now coming out and
I'm
making
not
these
ashamed
programs
of going
available.
down there and knocking on the door, brother.
Well, neither am I, neither
I
am I.
mean, y'all talked about, Al Grant. I used to pass him on the road, me going down to Washington DC all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived down, had Washington half the time. Always down there beating that Marble Palace to death, and they didn't get nowhere. That's like walking on deaf ear, you know.
Yeah.
You know, most of them guys down there, you know, they got a career job, you know.
Right.
They don't want to, they got in, they're getting paid good money, good health care, good everything, you know, and they forget who they work for.
And we even exchange numbers too, so you can call me. Everything I get is my personal cell number.
Well, I
give it to
just
everybody.
appreciate it. Give these guys here the tools.
You saw it, did it?
Well,
I
these
gave
guys
them
are
accolades.
tools,
There
you know.
were 13 departments that was coordinated by an alleged part-time police, fire department, and we had 13 different communities
Sure.
come out there in our stead. And on top of that, it showed what type of relationship our community had with the surrounding communities.
Sure.
And so, you're right, we give them accolade. Our police department was out there controlling traffic and keeping people away and getting them out of the building. So our police and fire stood up, you know, did what they were supposed to do, and I'm very proud of them. And I demonstrated and explained it to them too. So, but I'm gonna be getting the letter out, but I'll give you a call and give you the information
Well, thank you
if
very much.
anybody else, okay.
And lastly, again, you have 4 companies right surrounding that area that are all expanding.
Right.
They're comfortable. You actually get more lead emission from your grass, from mowing your grass, than a house a half mile away with lead emissions in the air. But we're talking about ag, you know, we're talking about the real problems, which were agmet, et cetera, you know.
Well, you can get out there in the summertime on a nice day with
Yeah.
your family standing out there,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you can smell like electrical burning like crazy, and it's agate metals. You can drive right over there, and somebody told me to go in there and tell them, you know, let them know that they're doing it. Well, that's like telling the guy that's robbing your house, hey buddy, you forgot to take that. You know, I mean, that's what it reminds me of.
Well, it's a new operation though, as I say, and you're gonna, as I say, there's only been 2 issues since Christmas. And additionally, there'll be a committee that, anyway, when I get a call from a resident on a complaint, they immediately shut down when I call them up with the new management there. But as the change is gonna be dramatic with this $9 million of cleaning, and making things more efficient and clean and particles in
When
the
is
air.
it supposed to start?
Huh?
When is it
Soon.
supposed to start?
They've already been putting some of it in, and that's why you've seen a difference already, and only, I mean, even, one of the ladies on Drake really makes a lot of complaints, and she has to admit as well, there's only been 2 issues since Christmas time of their operations. And I expect it to be even better than that, as soon as they really start implementing these other changes this year. But we'll see.
Look to hear from you, and thank you for the call.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Mr. President, may I speak?
Yeah.
The program that you
Smoke it,
shared
Jimmy.
with this entire council,
Mhm.
it has gone out.
Hey, yo.
Before you leave, you got to.
Mr. Sizemore?
Mr. Sizemore?
Yes.
We're gonna Xerox this. These are the programs that the president of council has shared with all of us. I have a newsletter going out to reiterate, these are the programs you're looking for your rehab, to rehab your homes.
So a lot of people are wanting to rehab their homes, or wanting to put in new driveways, or
Oh, that's
trying to
it.
get a building up in the backyard or something like that. And, you know, they're right at that line where they just can't afford, you know,
Right.
to go to the bank.
Before you leave, I'd like to give you that. This is
Well,
going
bless
out
your heart.
in the next couple of weeks. And it all came from the president of council. He supplied us with it.
I'll take one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need a driveway.
There's also information on there regarding 211. That's a service that a lot of people are not aware of. You can get a lot of help there. So it's all on that form, okay?
Listen, I don't wanna sound like a nag,
You don't.
coming in here all the time and stuff like this and blowing up. I'm not, got one thing against that man right there. Not one thing. He's doing the best he can do with what he's got to work with and stuff like that. But when you got a corporation standing there, and I've seen these companies get in front of judges and lie like crazy, and I've seen lawyers say, I seen the judge look at him over there one time and said, can you possibly tell the truth? You know, I mean, that's pretty sad when you got a judge tell you.
Excuse me, Dean, just do the repair. The law director hasn't approved that. Just do the repair page, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just the back.
Just the back,
Yeah.
just the back. Thank you. Excuse me for disturbing that thing, but that's some good information.
Sure.
All right, next.
Want me to bring a couple chairs in here from the hallway? You sure you're all right?
This is the best place.
Attorney Pointer, I did want to follow back
Hey,
on
y'all
your
doing?
question. I
Always call me up for work, you
when you walked in before, you give the address. And when I asked you about,
Yes.
it's a very small thing, but I don't know why it bothers me that we do that. But I wanted to ask you, follow up, could you provide me with the sunshine law on where it says it requires that residents have to give their address?
I'm not sure it requires it.
Okay,
It's
is that a
silent.
bylaw here then?
I think it's silent on it the last I
Okay. But it's not required, but I think that's just a formidable thing that we do
I
here.
think it's the rule of council, which, and council is entitled to. act.
There are rules, I know.
If you're aware of something that says that that's illegal,
No,
I'd
I
be
didn't,
happy
I
to-
never said that. What
Okay.
all I said was, where does it show in the sunshine law that requires that? That's all.
I don't believe the sunshine law does require it.
Okay,
I think it does not prohibit it.
it's not prohibited. Okay, alright. But just seeking clarification.
I'm sorry,
I'm
is it
also-
a written rule of ours, or is it, do we have it written somewhere that that's our rule too?
I don't know, the council is, that was way preceding
It's been
my
done,
time.
it's
I'm
been
not
done for
sure about
years.
the
I was just
genesis
wondering.
of it.
The next question I wanted to follow to on last time I was here about legislation 2021-79 and 2021-80. Remember, as I mentioned, and it's also in the minutes, that I mentioned about appropriations being passed without attachments. And it was stated this year was the first time it was ever presented to council without appropriations attached, meaning the budget for the city, the village. It also wasn't passed. You guys passed it without the budget attachment. So if you can look that up, and also on your public records, the previous clerk of council has it switched, where 2021, I believe 79 should be the appropriations, and then she has 2021 as the temporary. It's one of the two, they're switched. Nonetheless, the evidence of the fact that it was presented to council without the attachment is that in your minutes, if you look, I believe in January of the following year, 2022, and I'll get to why that's important, okay? It was asked by one of the council members. I'll pass it this time, but will you provide us with the documentation at a later date, of which the finance director said he would. That's how it shows that it was not attached when it was passed. So if council can look into that,
Can you refer me to the date of the minutes you're referring to, and I'll be happy.
It will be the minutes, I can do that. It will be in the minutes of the following year, 2022, I believe, January or February. But I'll be more concrete on that, and I'll share that with everyone again, follow that up with that minute.
Appreciate it.
Okay. And the reason why I'm saying that is because going a different route, I do have a concern. I have a concern that I'm a resident just like everyone here. And my concern is that what happened to accountability? I have nothing against the mayor, I have nothing against the finance director, and what I'm not gonna do is do anything disparaging or say anything disparaging about those two. Because they're doing their jobs as the mayor requires, what he expects from the finance director, that's what he expects from them, whatever those rules and regulations are. But accountability is important to council. And the reason why I say that is because when things come before you, you have more power than you know. And that is, you can be all right, you'll be okay to disagree and then come up with an alternative. It doesn't always have to be, well, if I say no, you're saying no against the mayor. That's not true. It's that you have your own convictions and you are obligated to the people who put you in office to serve and represent them. None of these seats are birthrights. And so while you're sitting here, every time you have a council meeting and legislation is brought before you, do not disparage people because they're asking questions. Whether it's one person or not, don't look at that person as being the person that's against the mayor. How about for the village when they're asking questions? I don't have anything against the mayor, but I've always challenged the mayor. I've never sat idle and just did what he said. We worked collaboratively together to ensure that what we were presenting to council was on point. And I presented information when I was here that you didn't have to ask questions because I didn't have a problem with being transparent. So I have a problem when legislation dealing with the budget is being passed by the majority without attachments. How can you pass budgets and not know what you're passing?
We had an
The year
attachment.
before last, no you didn't.
We had
The
an
year,
attachment.
the year before last, in 2021, you did not have an attachment.
With 2020.
I said in 2021, and then in last year, when it was presented to you, or 2023, I should say, the temporary was presented, or the final, it was on second read and there was no attachment. And it wasn't until I said something that someone said, oh, we wasn't gonna pass it anyway until an attachment. And I get it, sometimes there's so much thrown at you guys. I get that some things are missed, but you can't miss that. You cannot miss a budget, and here's why. The year before last, we closed with a general fund of $72,000, and we have a $300,000 payment. Starting in January. That's what your carryover reserve was for the general fund. And this year.
You're forgetting that there was a reimbursement from the county of over
Mayor?
$300,000 coming in. So
Mayor,
come on, let's put
I
things
have
in
the floor,
perspective,
I
though.
have the floor,
Please.
and you can.
We have the fourth lowest
Let me tell
property
you
tax in
something,
the
I am not
county.
intimidated by you yelling, Mayor, you know that
Point
doesn't
of
work.
order,
with me.
Mayor, let her
It
say.
doesn't
She has
work.
something. Go ahead, Ms. Thomas.
It doesn't work.
Go ahead,
So
please.
just stop, Mayor. You can say all you, at the end of the year, this year, it was $142,000. Allow me to see where I'm going with this. I know that you guys don't feel comfortable with building a reserves, but case in point, the chief of police just said that 2 people are retired. So what if they retired in January in their payout? Do you think we would have enough to cover that payout? No, you would be using special revenue reserves to do that. I'm just saying, be more active and stop passing legislation without questions. It doesn't mean you're going against them. If anything, you can work together, ask questions, and say, not today. Maybe if you provide me more information, we'll pass it on the next time. Or maybe if you could repeat it to me 3 times or 20 times until I understand, until I feel comfortable. You should never feel comfortable about legislation being presented to you on the fear that the mayor's gonna be mad at you or that he won't support you. I'm not inferring that anyone is like that, but I'm just saying you cannot be afraid about saying no to legislation with the fear of somebody being upset with you. Because you guys have worked, most of you have been here for a long time. Just like the mayor was just ready to yell. I know the mayor, I know he does not mean that that's just how he communicates when he doesn't agree. But that doesn't bother me. I can yell back, but I prefer not to do that because we can communicate way better. I don't bow down to people who talk loud to me. I respect you and I expect you to respect me when I'm on the floor. And as a resident, I have called you. You tell me you should call me. I do call you. You know what you say to me, Mayor? I don't have time. I'm swimming. I just got back from working out. I know you have a life outside of the mayor. But when I'm calling you and it's rare, you can have a conversation with me. I expect a call back as a resident.
And any other resident that would do that would have said there wouldn't have been a problem, as they do call back, okay? All I'm trying to do is put things in perspective. We didn't have 72,000. The biggest thing is, we have the 4th lowest property tax in the
Mayor,
entire
don't go
Cuyahoga
that
County.
direction. Don't go that direction, because that
What,
has
don't go in that
nothing to do
direction?
with the general
That's the most
fund.
important thing there
Mayor,
is.
stop it. You
Mayor,
know well,
we're
you
not-
know as well as I do,
Ms.
I
House,
know that.
Ms. House, we're
You
not.
can't
gonna
tell me
continue.
that.
Okay, well, let's move on with the
Well, why is
issue.
he interrupting me?
I've asked him to stop
Okay.
and I'll gavel him, but let's,
And I would love to have a meeting with you to show me where all of this money is, okay? I'm not saying we're going for broke, I didn't imply that. I didn't imply that. I'm saying, where's your comfort? When you're passing legislation without looking, it's not that you do it all the time. But I'm just saying, be mindful of that, because it matters. Just like when he was bringing up, talking about an advanced learning center. Who is that benefiting again? Is that private sector or is that public sector? Is that only benefiting the gifted, the highly intelligent?
Oh, please, here we're going again.
I'm
You have no
asking
idea what
you
you've been talking
a
about,
question.
Sharon.
Mayor, she's talking.
Oh,
one
and
of
the giant, this has gone on for 20 minutes.
Well,
He has to take care of all these
I'm the
minutes.
one
Come
that
on.
minutes.
I'm the one that
That's why
decides
the
how long.
last council
I'm the
lady
one
left,
who
because the minutes
decides
being
how
so
long
long.
it goes on. But just a correction to let you know, Ms. House, continue on. Mayor, stay out of it.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I have
Well, let's, Ms. House finish, please.
a, I'm not finished.
Mhm.
I've held it, it's no second.
Go ahead, Ms. House.
It's a question,
Mhm.
and I haven't been speaking for 20 minutes. The question is, you mentioned out of your mouth, advanced learning center. I asked the question, is that a public sector or private sector? That was the question.
His
The private
statement-
sector,
but
no,
his-
no
his-
taxpayers'
talking to
money
the
is
council
His,
involved.
his
Thank you.
statement to us is that it has nothing to do with Oakwood Village funds, he's not gonna request any funds, it's totally something that's gonna be done totally without any, with donations and contributions from corporate America. It has nothing to do with council
Thank you.
or our funding. And he's mentioned that each time.
But my last
Well,
question.
it doesn't, it makes sense.
And I'll
if
stop,
you-
because I wanna make sure I
Go
don't
ahead.
get past 20 minutes.
Go ahead, please.
The other statement is, we do have a public school district. I'm advocating for them, and I want them to win.
Mhm.
And if there's anything we can do to enhance our school district, I'm all for it. And so if we have STEM programs, if we have trades that we can see getting into our school, I'm all for that. And that's what I would be discussing at a public forum, is our public school district and how they're fair and what we can do as legislators and residents to help them win. Because after all, our property taxes do pay for the school district.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And for the betterment, and people move to communities like it or not, particularly young families, they move to this community for a district, the school district, and it feels safe. And I'm gonna say this last thing and I'm gonna close. I will definitely say, I have my prayers for the police and fire department, because you guys got a hard job. Every time you turn around, if it ain't one thing, it's 10. And sometimes there are two sides to every coin. And I know that firsthand, every time I read the news or hear the news, which I rarely listen to because it's a downer. Because you would think nothing good is happening in this world. But I do pray, Chief, for you guys' safety as you're on that road every day, because you don't know who you're stopping. And I pray for the fire department for your safety, because you don't know what you're inhaling. So, thank you so much for listening to me. And again, I will say I will continue to come, and I will never dumb me down, or I will never be bullied simply because I'm voicing my opinion. I'm gonna come as often as I can, and when I do, I will continue to respect you guys. I will not degrade you, but I definitely don't want that in return, to be degraded or disrespected simply because I have a difference of opinion.
And you're absolutely right.
Mr. President?
But let me just say something for the record. Ms. House, when you made an inference that people don't go against the mayor because we don't want them angry at us or mad at us, you work with me as as acting finance director, and I made sure you stayed in that position so that you had my protection. You also know that when he put Tryon Road, my first year in office, he had Tryon Road as a no-interest loan, and he knew that it was gonna be a guarantee, and I said, no, we're gonna go for a 50% grant. And we did, and I went down and I petitioned the state and with the engineer, and you know I was going with the engineer for years to propose our infrastructure program, and it was totally against what he was wanting to do. I always stood up for our residents, for our employees, and never gave him, and never have given him a stamp of approval, and you just handed it to me, and I'm afraid of what you're gonna say. People here have seen us in council meetings that could tell you that. So sometimes
Well, I will
I will
apologize
refrain from being disappointed with the allegation when it's all inclusive, when you know me specifically and have seen me. Now you haven't seen me because you haven't been around, but I'm the same me.
May I say something? I would like to recant and rephrase that statement. I would like to recant that you guys don't respond because you're afraid of how he's gonna respond, okay? What I will say is this: I'm asking council, that council body, to continue to fight for the residents, and the mayor, that you continue to work for the residents too. Not implying that you don't, but you cannot get upset because somebody has a different view than yours.
Let's ask council.
But you're,
Council,
no, I'm asking you,
Have
I'm
I
talking
bullied
to
any
you.
of you on council regarding
Yes.
anything?
Yes, yes.
Other than Miss Williams, anybody else?
Well, why is that, Mayor?
Why?
She has
Because I
a
asked
difference of
questions.
opinion, and it's okay. It's no harm or foul, it's okay. If we had all 7 people standing or sitting at council thinking alike, what would be the originality of the city? It would be all the same. That's why people vote, and that's why we have 7 people in 7 wards, to bring uniqueness to this community.
And that's exactly true.
And that's exactly what you have here.
Mayor, what I'm saying is, you cannot, and I'm saying this lightly, you cannot have a temper tantrum because somebody disagrees with you. I've worked with you for a long, 12 years. Been the finance director here for 12 years. I know how you work, your personality. I know when to walk away. And Johnny, you're right. You have, but don't stop it.
I'm not, and I
But
haven't.
what I'm saying, Johnny, is allow people to be different.
Okay.
Don't look at it as they are going against you or the grain. We got young people coming up in here,
You're right, you're right.
and it's nothing wrong. They think differently, I'm telling you.
Right, and it's time for us to start mentoring.
And it's
them,
time
too.
for you guys to think differently about things. It's not taken away from your character or your strength that you brought here, but encourage these young people that are coming, because they're coming. Encourage them to come to council meetings and bring ideas. I still don't agree with bringing Allen. This community makeup is not what comes to these concerts.
Karen, you haven't been to one concert, so please.
I don't come to your
Well,
concert
wait a
because you
minute,
know
wait a minute,
why.
point of order.
We have
Now,
thousands
we'll just
of
end the
people.
conversation,
We're in
and
We're in
yourself
there.
and the mayor, if you guys could
I
meet
don't come
at
because
another time,
you only
but
put
let you know,
Mr.
you're
President,
welcome,
I'm
and
asking.
I appreciate you coming, because
It's not about
nothing
you,
keeps us.
nobody else.
Right.
Mr. President, I can't hold it another minute. I was asked by my husband not to do this, but tonight is the night. I can't do this anymore. The word that I wrote down 15,000 times is decorum. We don't have that here. It is totally out of control. And it starts with the mayor. It starts with the mayor. That means that there's a lack of respect. This has got to stop. If I look at what happened in Tennessee, and I'm thinking, why am I looking at Tennessee? It's right here. Decorum. There is no decorum. If there is no respect for the council, there's no respect for the people. It's got, this is called a council meeting, Mr. President, and guess what? At any point in time, you as the chair of this committee can appreciate any mayor, any information we get from the mayor. However, we can ask for it in writing. If the mayor cannot control himself and respect this body and these people, Mayor, this was the day. I was praying you wouldn't do that today. I have been wondering how much longer. And I'm one of those that have sat here for many years. Tonight is the night. I have learned, if nothing else, from these young people coming up. And like you said, we have an obligation to mentor these people.
Right.
I doubt very seriously if anybody here would accept what just happened here. Not in a organized community that respect the rules. The rules have gone right out of the window. And Gary, you are awesome when it comes to community development. There's nobody like you. And this is for the record, but honest to God.
But his behavior doesn't outshine
This
that.
cannot continue. I cannot sit here another meeting. Mayor, if you have to get up and walk out, whatever you need to do, I'm praying that you never do this again. And I was praying it wouldn't happen tonight. I have been upset all day because I just dreaded this happening. It's time. We have professionals here, Mayor. You have, your staff is excellent. That's the only saving grace. You have a police chief, a fire chief here,
Service director.
service director. These people work hard to keep the community together, but to come here and have to hear this, I'm tired of it. I am so sick of this. This does not have to be like this. The information that you have brought us, when we question it, boom, boom. Well, by God, God on high was asked, and I'm not a Bible scholar, but people have asked God, Jesus, why? And that's how this has to be, Gary. It has to be. If this cannot keep going on, Mr. President, and I apologize to everyone. I tried to hold on, but this is not acceptable. Gary, you are a much better person than this. You are better than this. All that you do, and you get credit for, on nights like this, I just wonder what is going on. And we don't have to put up with it. You're awesome as it comes to community development. But Gary, you disrespected this council tonight, and that's why I'm upset. That was disrespect to the council. If she was talking, what she had to say was directed to council. If anybody should be jumping up and walking up and down the table, it should be one of us, I would think. No, that's her right. That's her opinion. And so be it. But I'm not gonna sit here another meeting, Mr. President. I'm asking this council, if we have to censor you, Gary, we can't keep doing this. This is it. If I leave no other legacy to this community, I want it to be that Ms. Harden spoke up and said, we are going to use decorum when we deal with each other in public. Now, you and I can go back here and the police chief can be the referee. That's back there. But up here, we're gonna respect each other. Mutual respect. And this is what happens. You lose total control, total respect, and now we sound just like a bunch of idiots up in here.
again, Ms. Harden, all I was wanting to do was correct a statement, which was said, and it was not inaccurate when the closing balance for the year was, let's say, 75,000. But what was not said was that, in fact, there wasn't a problem because we were gonna be owed from the county over 300,000 within the next couple months.
But guess
That's
what,
what,
Eric?
that had not, that otherwise would not have been said.
You
But
interrupted,
the
all I-
thing is, but the
wait,
thing
wait,
is.
wait,
with
but
the
you
bottom-
interrupted her and you didn't let her finish.
Well, the
Okay?
bottom line is
That wouldn't
that,
have been said.
the bottom
You don't know
line,
what I was
well, let me
gonna
just
say.
tell you this, the bottom line there is that she was accurate that the carryover was 75,000.
Yeah.
That's all I said.
And
Yeah.
72,000.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that I get a check this week, and all of us do get a check whenever we do, and we spend the money and we say, how much you got? All you can say is what you got, but I'm expecting some. You can't count that, even though you anticipate it. That's your own inner, but it's the reporting that is the issue. And the reporting is accurate to reflect the $72,000 carryover. And for years, and actually this council has even talked about it, and we do have a plan in place, or we're putting a plan in place to guarantee that we carry over, or start to have a separate account. And we all had talked about it, and having a separate account that at least $25,000 a year will be put into that separate account, and the only way they'll be touched is by authorization accounts.
Mr.
How
President?
did we do 25,000?
Or 50,000, it was 25 or
Mr.
50,000.
President, but guess how
And everybody can
that,
tell you
guess how
that.
that came about? This young lady talked about that 15 years ago. And so we understand now, and I appreciate, and this council, we work together, we make it happen, Mr. Mayor.
And we all
Even though
realize,
you told us that, no, there'll never be, that doesn't matter. We know what we have to do, but it's not what you say to us, it's how you say it. And that's the end of that. I'm not accepting it. The very next time we get one of these outbursts and this craziness goes on, this is embarrassing. This looks crazy, and this is public record, and now that I think, this is crazy. No more, Mr. President, should just go on. And you don't hit the gavel, we gonna get up and walk out of here. I'm not gonna sit and go through this.
I did hit the gavel.
That's what I said you did, okay? Mr. President, going forward, I'm going to ask for decorum. Mr. Mayor, you and I have been around this maypole for many years. It's time it stopped. You have people sitting in this audience, somebody out here, I see some running. I don't know who will be sitting here, and it doesn't matter. But to set this as a goalpost, who needs this? This is embarrassing. Thank you, Mr. President.
And again,
Yes.
the audience should know that in fact there was $300,000 coming in within 2 months. That was not being said. The audience deserves to understand that rather than just hearing that there's only $75,000 as a balance at the end of the
But
year.
we are responsible, and that is part of the problem, and that's why.
But
she's
that's
bringing
why
it up.
the audience should be aware
No.
that there was that $300,000 that the county owed
No.
us.
That is the problem and why she's bringing it up, because we always do that here. We
But the
have-
audience wouldn't have
We
been aware of
have
that.
this amount of money in December, but we expect this amount of money in 4 months. But we can't go off of what we expect and we don't have.
But
That
it
is
wasn't
an
expected,
improper
that's what
way.
the county owed us. They owed us, it wasn't expected, they
So
owed
what
us that
happens
money.
if the county is unable to pay for whatever reason, because you don't control their finances? You cannot count future funds, and that is why we need to have a reserve budget, and we also need to have an amount of money that we do not go below in this village, because you cannot count future funds. You cannot do that. It is a horrible practice, it is not a best practice for finance. So, yes, that's great information for them to know, but it's not relevant to her point of what we ended the year with.
It's interesting by not
Can I
being,
just please finish the statement I was going to say? He truly did interrupt me, and I promise you it's 1 second. What I was going to say is that you closed 1 year at 72,000 and the year before 142,000. General fund. The money that is coming back to you, okay, you did not do an advance from the general fund to support these other special revenue funds, which means that the funds go back into those special revenue funds, not the general fund. You're not paying yourself back. That's all I was saying. I'm fully aware of how that transaction occurs. And what I was really saying is, you should start figuring out an amount that you're comfortable with. When you're passing budget legislation, you wanna be concerned about ensuring that you have a reserve for our employees, that you can pay them out. I'm not saying that's an issue, but you need to have a reserve to make sure their pension, their accruals for vacation and sick is paid out with no issues. And that's all I was saying, to just work on that, that's a goal. That is what and I've said that in the previous council meetings. So I was going to complete that sentence with that thought. So I'm not saying anything deceptive, again, to make the village look bad. I disclosed that from the beginning before I talked. I'm not saying anything disparaging against village. I live here. But I do have a little bit of an advantage because I do know how to read the financial statement, not implying that you don't. But I'm saying because I have that information, why not share it with the community? It's public record. So if you can show me where that money is coming and has it been placed back in the general fund, then fine, we'll have a different discussion on that.
Mr. President,
It's interesting when
it didn't fall on deaf ears. You got a point on that, and thank you.
I can't underscore enough. Cuyahoga County is the 9th biggest population loss of any county in the entire United States. The inner ring suburbs are broke. They're all having to raise taxes, and if they can't raise taxes, they're decreasing the credit. Now, what does that mean? We have 100% credit. So when you work elsewhere, you're not having to pay Oakwood any money. What's not happening, now in South Euclid as an example, they couldn't get a tax increase over 3%. So they had to decrease their credit to 0. So now people not only have to pay where they're working, they're having to pay in South Euclid. Many of your inner suburbs are having to do this same thing. We're fortunately not having to, because we had the vision, and with the proper team that we have here, to be able to attract the kind of companies where people have to come to work. Not where they can be remotely working out of home and paying where they are. Here's the problem now with Cleveland. 375 officers have retired or resigned, and now the mayor's having now to potentially lay off another 135 because they don't have the money. The buildings are empty. They're being converted into apartments, into retail, which isn't bringing in the money. And this is what's happening. And I gave you this perfect example. We had a half hour before even one officer showed up when we're ready to leave after a hit and run. This is what's happening in Cleveland. They don't have the money either. This is why we aren't conventional, and you do what you have to do. But the point is, by having the 4th lowest property tax in the county, that is huge. And that's, as I say, it's a team effort. It isn't one person. Let's just give all the glory to God.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna ask if we still was the head of his life.
Yeah, we haven't closed the floor yet. Is there any other person for public comment? If not, I'll close the floor for public comment, and it's in your hands, law director.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
President.
hold on a minute, Ms.
Just a point, Ms. Matlock is not here tonight because she had surgery today. Her sister is here representing her. So she can take back to her the information and everything that went on here.
Don't bring it all back to me.
You can have your sister.
Okay. Sir.
First item on the agenda is ordinance 2020. I'm sorry, first item on the agenda is resolution 2023-13, a resolution authorizing participation in the ODOT road salt contracts awarded in 2023.
Motion to suspend?
Warren,
Yes.
Baker. Yes. Calendar.
Yes.
Arden,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Williams.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Warren,
Yes.
Baker. Calendar,
Yes.
Arden, Davis,
Yes.
Williams.
Mr. President, I would request a, motion to amend the agenda to include a reading of ordinance 2023-14 for the appointment of Deanna Hammond as the Assistant Clerk of the Village Council. And this is necessary due to the fact that the interim Clerk of Council is unavailable for the next month or so. And, in order to continue the business of council.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
But we created legislation without even having a conversation with her about that? Is
The
that,
mayor
is that
had
what
talked,
we did?
well, the mayor talked to her supposedly about it. I'm assuming that she may be here, but I think that that's up to her to take the position that she would like to take as far as the legislation, since she is the person.
Well, I mean, it would be up to her, but she's just now finding out about it in this moment, so you expect.
You
her
just
to
found
read
out about it this morning, this moment?
I didn't know it was all of this, so I was kinda surprised to hear it.
So, do you have any questions? Because I think that would be the proper thing, that this was fully discussed, you were able to ask questions, consider it before we presented something.
Yeah, it was
to be
kinda
approved.
more so brought to me as a fill-in role, like not in this present time, but more so like down the line somewhere, so for it to be the whole thing, I kinda wasn't aware of it. So, I mean, there are questions, but,
Because,
I
man,
mean,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, then, Debbie is going to be our that's one. She's gonna be gone for the month,
For the month of April, yes.
all of April, so this.
so then she can't do May, so.
Well, she is gonna do May, she's working through May. When she
Oh.
returns, she's going through May, and she's
Oh.
giving us the opportunity that if we agree to advertise and we find a clerk, if we find that clerk before the end of May, she's gonna train the clerk too.
Okay.
Why did you say she can't do May?
Well, she said if y'all didn't have anybody by the end of April, she was done by May. That's what she told me.
Right, well, done by May, but she mean the end of May.
Okay. I mean, if she clarified that with y'all, then that's
Right.
fine.
Do you have any questions about rate or pay?
Yeah,
One thing I
don't know.
had asked was I didn't think it was appropriate to add additional responsibilities to someone when we were saying that we needed to discuss a raise or compensation, and now we're adding an additional role that she wasn't even fully explained to, and passing legislation. While she's sitting here, it seems very inappropriate and out of order.
Well, from what it was discussed with me, she was aware of the position, and she called me and told me that she was setting up the office, and based on our previous conversation of last week or week before last, you and I were talking about when she leaves, you were going to, it
Well,
was
she
either you.
set me up. I mean, I assumed that since she was going to Florida, that I would have to fill in for at least this meeting.
Mhm.
But as far as conversation or whatever, go, we wanted to discuss that here, but like, I didn't know.
Mr. President,
Yeah,
it's kind of obvious what has just happened, and I think what's going on, we need someone that's in place so far as the law is concerned to sign off. That's the real issue from the law, from a legal standpoint. So at this point, we have the legislation cannot be properly adjudicated, is that right? See how smart I am? We can't follow the process without someone in place, so.
and we had to have someone to sign the documents, and we had already mentioned that in the beginning, and she's aware of today's meeting anyway.
Yeah, but she's not aware of being appointed. So in all fairness, this is still America. Relax.
Right.
Mr. Lawrence, I would, and it's a shame we have this discussion over the legislation like this. But if this is the only meeting, how are you being compensated? If you're understanding this was overtime under your present umbrella?
No,
Assignment?
no, it's not overtime, it's just like $100 a meeting.
I'll just, okay. What about the, you have to type, or you're aware that you were typing it, or you're not putting in typing?
No, I thought Debbie was gonna do the typing, I thought I was literally just here to do what I'm doing now.
Is that what you?
Well, I mean,
It was submitted to me that between you and Debbie coordinating, even within her absence, she said that she was gonna be doing things, you know, away.
Right.
So from
Right,
remote.
so I
and
wasn't
that-
expecting.
Right, that you're gonna be supplementing and communicating with you that information so that you can review it and present it.
I suggest that, if you will agree to the, if she was told she was getting $100 per meeting, there was a conversation with somebody, and I don't care the name's name. So she thought she would be the clerk tonight, right? That's what I'm hearing. So can we put a time frame for, I would say for tonight, because you know what you're being compensated. And then with the next meeting, by then, the proper dialogue should have been held, will have been held. If $100 is your understanding and you're okay with that, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, can we, Mr. Law Director, give this a time frame of 2 meetings so that she's paid for the, and we know that it's only for those 2 meetings?
Why don't we just do this? Why don't we just understand it's $100, pass the legislation and amend it so that the ball can keep rolling? We can always do that.
You shouldn't be doing anything that she hasn't agreed to
And-
and fully understand.
And I understand, and that's part of the amending it, for you to know that we're gonna amend it, but we're gonna talk to her, see what actually, that's the whole purpose of the amendment, is to clearly identify her perceived scope of work and responsibilities, and then by a special council meeting, make that determination. And then at the special council meeting, but in the meantime, we need someone to sign this legislation that we just passed. And she can't officially do it unless she's officially placed as council clerk. And so, again, like I said, we already know you can pass budget, you can do anything, and you can amend anything too. So I'm not in favor of sitting here and putting her in the jackpot or our legislation body in the jackpot, when the simple solution at this point is to pass this legislation and then have a special meeting and amend it.
I don't think you heard nothing I said, but okay.
I did, you were talking about
Let's
talking to
leave.
her.
And you definitely didn't speak to any concern that I expressed, because my concern is you are talking about passing something that she has not had time to even comprehend or ask questions or anything. There's no compensation stated in here. What is not written does not exist. It said, shall be compensated as provided by council. There's no amount in here. This is not fair to do to someone who works for our
Well,
village.
as the legislation is passed,
Mr.
we
Frank,
can pass with the contingency.
no,
Go ahead.
she has agreed to one thing. What's $100 for tonight. That's as far as
Per
we can do.
meeting,
No,
she said.
per meeting. So that would be this meeting.
Mhm.
The only fair thing to do is to pass the legislation for tonight, covering tonight's meeting, okay? And then schedule a special meeting.
That's what I just said.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay, just the $100, just for tonight,
Mhm.
okay? Is that agreeable? Okay,
That's
we're
what
going
she
no further than
So we
tonight.
are adding a date. Law Director, what is your position, because I see you, what's your position on this? Because I'm not comfortable with passing legislation about someone who is employed by the village as an adult that works here, that has her own mind in question and was not fully informed about what we are about to do concerning her role in doing work for us. So I see you shaking your head. What is the issue?
No, I'm not shaking my head. I'm trying to follow the conversation, all right? My suggestion would be this. I was not a party to the discussions had with Dee. All right, however, my suggestion would be that at some point we appoint somebody within the village as the assistant clerk of council that's called for in the minutes so that we can continue our business when the regular clerk of council is unavailable, out of town, we're between clerks, so that they can step into that position. Now, what those terms are with that person and what the pay would be, you know,
That
that's
doesn't help
not,
us right
that's
now,
not
that
for
doesn't
me,
help us now.
that's not for me to decide, all right? That said, I would suggest that we can probably go a week or so without
Signing that.
resolution, the
Being signed.
resolution being signed.
Okay,
Things can be worked out with D. I don't think that we can amend this legislation as we sit here tonight to properly take account of all the things that need to be decided. So my suggestion would be we have the resolution in advance or have Debbie sign it, all right, remotely, all right? And then we can get it on the record, get it posted, all right? And then that we back up, have the conversations with Dee. And again, my suggestion would be, if she is willing, that we appoint somebody as the assistant so that they're ready to step in if the regular clerk is not available, for whatever reason, and we can continue our business.
well, that's good. I would go on and let Debbie sign it remotely and then have a reasonable conversation with,
I mean, just to be clear, like, it kinda seemed like it was gonna be like down the line and not like today.
you don't have to apologize.
No,
I'm
she just saying how she took
clarify,
it.
because like when he asked, could I do it, it seemed like when y'all had somebody in place, then if they were out, then, you know, you could call them in, I could step in, but I thought it was down the line, not right now.
Okay.
So
That works.
that's only I was just a little bit surprised.
Thrown
I see it on there.
Okay, so we
Let Debbie
understand
sign
that.
remotely. Change the name.
I'm sorry?
We're not gonna pass it.
Okay.
Now, what is because we keep having these piecemeal conversations, and the minutes I saw, as I read them, were not all verbatim. A lot of them were just like summaries. What is happening with the minutes? Are they being done verbatim? How long is Debbie gonna do them? Do we know those timelines? What is the situation?
Debbie's gonna do the minutes until May 30th. And no, they're not gonna be verbatim, they will be summarized. And
Is that supposed to be for Debbie because she's interim, or is that supposed to be going forward because we discussed verbatim before?
well, we just talked about it, we never agreed on it or made it a necessity.
Mr. Chairman, Debbie's gone. She's already gone, I think she's
We
already.
already
left
know
the
that,
city.
Mayor, we're talking
Yeah.
about something different.
Well, you're
Debbie's
talking
gonna,
about the minutes being available.
Yeah.
She's gonna be gone for at least the rest of the month.
Mayor, we're talking about the minutes and she's talked to us, me, and said that she's gonna keep in communication with Dee.
Mhm.
But the issue with Dee while you were out
Mhm.
was the fact that it was never agreed upon, or Dee didn't have a firm or honest understanding of what this position was, except for to have the acknowledgement that she will be stepping in when needed, but didn't know that it was immediately today, and Debbie's taking off, and now it's through the month of April, because Debbie will be gone through the month of April. She didn't have any knowledge of that, so what we're gonna do is, we're not passing the legislation, we're gonna have a special meeting, and at that special meeting, we'll make the determination or make a offer to see what the salary is, the job responsibilities are, and memorialize that into an ordinance.
So back to my original question, because we did establish that we wanted verbatim minutes with Christine Morgan. Are you saying that the new person, when they come on board, will go back to verbatim minutes?
We will talk about that at our meeting. We can talk about that at our special meeting, since we're gonna be talking about council clerk.
Executive session you're talking about, or actual next?
Well,
session?
whatever it is, the special meeting.
We did 13, we're done.
Right.
Just, if I can make a point, just on, you said about signing off on it, that legislation for the salt,
Oh, yeah, we gotta get
it's
this.
gotta be in, we just got it 2 weeks ago, I gave it Debbie a certain day, we got it it's gotta be in. If we miss it, Walton Hills missed the deadline about 6 years ago. We were paying $30 a ton for salt. They were paying over $100 because they couldn't be in the consortium.
So when is this due?
I'm not
I
sure.
thought it said May.
It's around May 1st, around that
Right.
time. I think that's why as soon as I got it, I gave it to Debbie.
Right, well, we'll have it signed
That's all.
and have it addressed, within a week.
Yeah, May 1st by 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So that's all, just so we
there
don't,
too, yeah.
if we miss the boat on that, so we will.
Well, we're not gonna miss the vote on that. Any other questions? Now, just for us
So
to,
if it happened that we did that on the 25th meeting, you will be okay?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We just email it to the state.
So 13 didn't pass, like actually.
It did pass.
It did, right?
Yeah.
We just gotta have Debbie sign it.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure, I'm sorry.
Can that be signed on there as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're still good, so,
Yeah.
yeah, we're good.
but we really wanna get this.
On this.
On the salt.
Right. Now, should we, is it appropriate for us to hold it to see when everybody is available to discuss the position? Why don't we end this meeting and then we'll talk about it at a work session, we'll have a work session immediately after this meeting.
That'll work.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So,
Williams,
Yes.
Davis,
yes.
Harden,
Yes.
Calendar,
Yes.
Gaither,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Now, this for sure is worse than
This meeting was so contentious, took it all for a year for $10 a meeting, but you know.
Y'all scared me, I'm like.